What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric, we are kind of catching our breath a little bit, but
Yeah.
also not really. Like, still really busy because now we're full into off-season swing. But it's nice that the Bills aren't making all these moves every Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday
Mhm.
every single week, firings, hirings that are major and small scale at the same time. We've dove into the Joe Brady piece, some of the offensive hires, the Jim Leonhard piece, some of the other defensive hires. And now, as we move past that, put a bow on those things, we start to get really into the meat and the crux of a big chunk of our offseason here on the film room, which is diving into free agent fits, then going from there and diving into college prospect fits
Yeah.
and beginning this real full
Some breath,
offseason.
huh?
Exactly. I was gonna say exactly. Like we're really not getting a break. Yeah, really diving into the full offseason gauntlet that we run here on the film room. Today, we will be diving into ideal defensive line targets for the
Mhm.
Buffalo Bills in 2026 under new defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard. But as always, before we do that, how you doing? How you feeling? How's it going?
Man, what a Super Bowl, first of all. What a few weeks it's been when it comes to us trying to scour through the film
Yeah.
and, free agent targets for the Bills, something we enjoy doing. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong. We love doing this. We love trying to nail down scheme fits, archetype fits, everything along those lines. And, tonight's going to be a fun one because I'd say for the last few years, defensive targets and crushes when it comes to that side of the ball have been kind of our bread and butter when it comes to nailing down guys that they eventually do sign or bring in. But it's a little different this year because of the Jim Leonhard hiring and the staff hiring and some of the new blood as far as the staff goes on that side of the ball. So it was fun to kind of attack free agency targets for the interior defensive line with that lens. And so it was a good time and fun, but it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. And what better way to kind of lean into the defensive line targets, especially inside on defense, than talking about the Super Bowl and the Seahawks. I swear, as much as every single year we talk about offenses, and offensive targets and this and that, defenses are the ones that have won Super Bowls the last couple of years, man. And the Seahawks did it in dramatic fashion, just dominating on that side of the ball.
Yeah, they absolutely murked the Patriots offense. And even, kudos to the Pats defense for kind of
Mhm.
keeping them in the game as well. Seahawks offense drove a little bit, but, tightening up situationally for the Patriots defense. But yeah, you look at that Seahawks defense and what they were doing from, I mean, just their defensive line. Like Byron Murphy is sick and Leonard Williams is sick. And then like Jaron Reed is pretty good. And
So
then like,
solid, yeah.
yeah. And then your edge rushers, it's like, do I want to put Lawrence and Owosu out there? Or how about Derek Hall and Boye Mafe? It's just like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Like they just rotate
Layers, just layers of
layers,
defense, yeah.
hockey line change
Mhm.
style on the interior, similar, different scheme, but similar to kind of like what the Eagles did last year in the Super Bowl. Where it was like,
Mhm.
hey, we've got like 7 or 8
8
really
deep.
good dudes, and we're just going to rotate them. Good luck blocking them. And the Patriots struggled up front. And then you pair that with what Mike McDonald is schematically from a preparation standpoint and a game planning standpoint. And
Yeah, that scheme's solid, man.
yeah, scheme is so good. What they're doing on the back end, the coverages, and Devin Witherspoon is just running like 1,000 miles an hour all over the place and beating
Yeah,
guys one-on-one and timing his rushes.
he's
And
special.
so special. And I love too. And this isn't like a revelatory thought. So many people have spoken on it at this point, but I was down on like Nick Emenwari as a prospect because of him being like a true safety. We
Sure.
talked about him like, how does he fit? And
Right.
then the Seahawks were like, well, we're going to take him and just make him like a big nickel / will linebacker. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, he's actually pretty good at that. And so
Yeah.
now you're running with like these DB packages where like Witherspoon's still your nickel, and then your linebackers are like Emenwari and Ernest Jones, and just how they built that team and then executed really, really spot on. And again, another year where we're sitting looking at the Super Bowl champ that had a defense filled with velociraptors and monsters that just murked an offense.
Yeah, and you can do that with Emenwari and Spoon on those third downs because you're stopping the run on early downs. You're getting the offense into those disadvantageous positions. And so those third and longs. And so now you can play fast. You can play with guys that are positionless and just can do all
Mhm.
different things. They can rush the passer, they can drop out in the coverage. And so it starts with those early downs, and it's something that we've talked about and we're going to talk about tonight, of stopping the run and on first and second downs. And if you watch back those early down plays by the Seahawks and how there's 7 or 8 deep guys at defensive line, whether they're interior or edge guys, how they attacked blocks with tenacity, how they shed blocks, how in many ways they could two gap, and any one of them could two gap, and whether that's inside or that's on the perimeter. And it allows guys to be a lot more fluid on the back end when it comes to coverages or even rushing the passer. So it's fun to watch, man. And especially when you talk about the Bills and what they've done by bringing in Jim Leonhard and the staff from the college level, and stuff like that. And we're going to talk about a little bit tonight with the front seven, but it's exciting to think about and to project some of these free agents, into the Bills defense, because we're expecting not a similar type defense from Mike Macdonald, but I think a philosophical type difference, right? And again, anyone can rush, anyone can drop, but he talked about it being able to fit up the run with 2 safety structures and having guys. In order to do that, you got to have guys, you got to have dudes up front, and we're going to talk about some of those tonight.
Yes, 1000%. And even tying into, it's kind of making rounds now of how the Patriots protection plan wasn't great. And so it's like, oh, okay, you attack teams' protection plans. Mike Macdonald does a great job of that. Jim Leonhard does a super good job of that, and has, back to his Wisconsin days, Denver did a good job of that as well, attacking things and running their true blitzes, but also their sims and their creepers based off of formation and alignment and personnel. And again, we've talked so much on the show about Leonhard playing on the front foot and wanting to dictate to an offense and not being a counterpuncher and making them go over to the sideline and have to adjust to what he's doing. That's very much in line with Mike Macdonald, that Seahawks defense, that group that is standing atop the Super Bowl world right now. I didn't know if I'm very much on the outside of this. I didn't know the Seahawks defense's nickname was the Dark Side. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. I hadn't heard that until
they just said it, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, wait a minute, when does this become a thing? And I felt very much like, am I the only? And I was too scared to ask about it because I didn't want everybody to be like, yeah, where have you been?
Yeah, where have you been?
Forever. And I was like, okay, I'm not trying to have people yell at me for this. But yeah, kudos to the Seahawks. Also, thank you to the Seahawks, so we don't have to live with an entire offseason of everybody talking about how the Patriots are back and how Drake May is the second coming of Tom Brady. I really don't want that to ruin my adult life like the Patriots ruined my childhood. But good news for the Seahawks, bad news for the Patriots, maybe good news for the Buffalo Bills, Erik, as we turn our focus towards the free agent focus of this offseason, of this episode. We are going to dive into the nose tackles, which is even that in and of itself, right? Like you talked about it, like talking about like actual noses, and instead of being like, well, this guy's a nose, but he could be more of a one tech in their scheme. Like the door has been opened up so much more in a fun way, but in a stressful way too, of body types and skill sets and roles. It's so
funny to do, especially with the guys like you chose right here, Lopez, who you liked last year. And like, I could see him fitting in the Bills defense and that, even structure, not the odd structure. Even guys we're going to talk about later, Sebastian Joseph Day, for me, he's a guy that has fit better in these odd fronts, but I still liked him as a 4-down guy because he can do that. But now these guys are even better fits in crushes of ours that have carried on from one defensive structure to another. And hopefully that there are a couple of guys that we can actually bring in, because we've liked some of these guys that we're talking about tonight for a couple of years, 2-3 years now.
Yeah, it's funny to kind of lead it off here with Lopez. Like I remember last year, so this cut up that we have here, his Cardinal stuff is from 2024. His Lion stuff is from 2025. But I remember talking about him last year and people being like, yeah, but he's aligned in a nose in a bunch of these plays, so that doesn't apply. I'm like, yeah, but like he could still one tech. Now it's like, look how like it just translates, and it's so beautiful, and that's so fun to kind of have and be able to kind of potentially have in this defense now. We're seeing a bunch of clips of Roy Lopez. My biggest thing with Lopez, similar to kind of what I liked last year, just not to boil it down to any one thing, but he's just an ass kicker up front. He plays with leverage, and a big thing that I'm looking for with these interior guys, and I know you're in similar vein with one of these points here. I want an ass kicker, and I want guys who have good block or scheme recognition, like guys who can read or feel when the double team is coming. Like this one here, he engages the center. You can see him seeing that or feeling it off his left side. He dips the shoulder, drops that knee a little bit, is able to eat that, Gallup technique block, stays on his man, gums up the works inside. He's really good at mitigating displacement. And overall, he just makes you work. It's rare to see him get moved or get thrown around. He eats and beats up blockers, squeezes gap and constricts running lanes. Good hand usage. He'll use his hands to defeat blocks, shed, and also occupy multiple blockers at the same time. You can't occupy and multiply. Well, I guess you could. He'll occupy multiple blockers at the same time. We'll see that coming up with one of these plays here against the Chiefs when he's in a Lions uniform. And just a guy who, he's not going to have a ton of pass rush upside. This isn't somebody who's going to get you, 5 to 10 sacks a year. But he's got some pop in him where he can get through, and you'll see he's making some plays in the backfield here against the quarterback, getting some pressures. But this is very much he's a stone, drop him in the middle of the defense, wide base, ass kicker who plays with leverage, will stay rooted in the ground, heavy lower body, but still can move a little bit. This is that example here against the Chiefs where he uses, both of his hands to kind of occupy a little bit and cause a mess. And he's just a guy who's going to keep your second level clean, make it a pain to play against, make it a pain to run against you. And somebody who, I've liked for a couple of years. This one's nice too, reading the screen. He's got good awareness. He's not just like an ass kicker to the point where it's like, okay, he's just playing violent for the sake of playing violent. Like you can see him process, and even him reading the screen here, I think is tied to his ability to recognize blocks. He can feel his zone block coming. He understands, okay, this guy's down blocking me. This is where the gap scheme run is going, or here comes the double. Let me work through there. He can split the doubles. He can mitigate and anchor. He can work over the top. It just, I think a really solid player on the interior who's coming off a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. I think he could be had for that similar average annual value, about 3.5 to maybe 5 million this year. I'm thinking like 2 years, 10 million, lock him down in the center of your defense, free up Deone Walker a little bit, get yourself a good rotation and start with a player like this.
Yeah, he's kind of that throwback to the odd front nose tackle. He's just, you look at, I mean, he's got the backside, right? He's got the backside. There's no doubt. He's got the thighs. There's no doubt he's that old school mold when it comes to sand in your pants, right? He's got it. And, I mean,
that's the phrase I was looking for. I couldn't think of it. Sand, sand.
And he's no nonsense. He's got no gloves. He's got his fingers taped, his wrists taped. He's got an elbow pad, for God's sakes. Like, he's a throwback. And like you said, he's a stone at the point of attack. He's very tough to move, but you also see enough quickness, adequate quickness to split doubles on these zone blocks when they are kind of moving things down the line of scrimmage and those gaps are moving. He is just strong, like country strong, right? Like, and you see the recognition. This is the biggest transition, guys. When we're watching the D linemen, D tackles, 3 or 5 tech guys in odd front structures. Again, the 3-4 type guys like Lopez, the block recognition. You have to see them snap their helmet. You see him snap his helmet to the left guard here because he feels that center going away from him. And so you can see that helmet snap to the backside guard. And then so do his hands, right? And so now he's anchoring down. And this is just what he does so well, along with some of the guys we're going to talk about tonight. Being able to control the middle of the defense is the name of the game when it comes to nose tackles, especially throwback guys like Lopez.
Yeah, and you did a great call with kind of his aesthetic. Like, what he's there for. Like, he's got an elbow pad and some knuckle tape and hand tape and wrist tape, and you're like, oh, like, he's there to beat people up.
Yeah.
And just what he can do, even again, so we're talking like the odd front pieces and nose, but he can function as, that one tech if they're going to go in the even down or the even front structure type of stuff. I think he'll help them from a light box perspective. I think he just helps them overall. And he's got enough pop on the snap and strength where he can drive a guy into the backfield, create displacement for the offensive line. I think he gets more athleticism than he gets credit for. I'm not talking like, oh, he's like a 9 on the RAS score. That's not him. But just somebody who I think, again, is a quality rotational body and a quality role that this defense would need. And again, helps to free up Deone Walker a little bit. He's kind of a force multiplier in a positive way. And I think this type of skill set and role is important to have in NFL defenses today, and especially, you know, considering the scheme and structure and multiplicity from the front perspective that we expect to see under Jim Leonhard.
Yeah, this is, you know, kind of the 4-eye looks here, and he's kind of the shade nose tackle. But again, block recognition. And watch, a lot of times these odd front structures, when there's a true nose tackle or more of a read type defender, they are watching the feet and blocks of the offensive lineman. As I talked about earlier, you saw the center go away. He does the same thing here. Look where his eyes snap to the backside guard. But he understands not only is that guy trying to reach him and block him, but all of his weight is leaning towards him. And so what does he do? He recognizes what's happening here and just throws him down and is able to pressure the quarterback there. So again, block recognition, whether that is a run or a pass, is going to be extremely important, because before, the Bills are just a one gap defense and they were just attacking up the field, and there's not as much worry there. Now, when they snap the ball on offense, the defenders have to kind of read, okay, not just run the pass, but what kind of block is coming, because they may have two gaps if it ends up being a run. But it's just a different mentality and skill set that the Bills defense, and I think the biggest transition that they're going to undergo in this, you know, even front structure to an odd front structure from Jim Leonhard.
Very good call. Yeah, and I take a player like him, Win Lopez, who he can do your traditional two gap stuff. He can do the gap and a half stuff, but he's also got enough movement where, okay, if we want to play some games like Jim Leonhard does, and we want to have some movement and we want to shoot, he can go from an A to an A, or he can go from an A to a B, slant, spike, do some stuff. And again, all with, I hate talking about the money because it makes it seem like, oh, he's cheap, he must be bad. It's just kind of how the market works. I think he's a guy who can fill a need and fill the role, but also isn't somebody who's going to break the bank. And so he's cost effective. He's role and skill set effective, similar to like he was last year, but even more so now because of the change in the defense. I could not. The first person, when they hired Leonhard, the first person that went into my head, I immediately was like, oh my God, Roy Lopez. Oh my God, it's more of a possibility now than ever.
It's an even better fit to not just what the Bills need at stopping the run, but schematic fit in some of that odd front structure. Kind of like this guy right here.
Oh, man.
Khyiris Tonga from the Patriots.
Who I remember seeing, he was in Arizona with Lopez the year before. And I remember looking at both, and I just didn't want to like do two Cardinals or the same body type, because I figured the Bills probably aren't going to bring in any of these guys. I don't want to talk on our free agency so about two of the guys in the same archetype they're probably not going to bring in. But yeah, I think it's so funny that full circle a year later, we're talking about Lopez and Tonga, and they were both on the Cardinals in 2024.
Yeah, no doubt. And Tonga is 6'2", 335 pounds. He had 30 total tackles last year, 17 pressures. He's a 29-year-old powerful space eater with a wide frame who thrives as a shade or zero technique nose tackle, winning with a very good base and overwhelming drive to control the line of scrimmage. He's naturally strong, much like Lopez. He's got a little more range, I would think, a little more like attack to him, because you'll see it. He honestly, I asked Connor McGovern, I was like, I gave him a list of the guys who I chose. He's like, the two that stand out are Sebastian Joseph Day and Tonga because of the strength that he has. Especially if we're talking run game, displays very good natural strength and leverage and powerful grip, allowing him to get into offensive linemen quickly and retrace over blocks to make tackles through that consistent strain. And strain is like, hey, you're engaged and you know that leverage is changing. He's pushing, you're pulling, and that strain, it's something he's very good at. He utilizes a solid speed to power move to push the pocket as a pass rusher, though his effectiveness as a penetrator is limited by short, choppy steps and marginal ability to pierce the line of scrimmage. And you're going to see some of that and some of the pass reps. But when he's a shade or a nose tackle, you see his pad level. You see guys' pads go up. Here's Connor McGovern. He gets right into him. And again, now he's playing that outside shoulder. And as soon as the running back, cuts it back, he's able to just move McGovern. Again, a very big, strong center. Just move him and go make the tackle. It's something you see a bunch on his film. Here he is again at shade for the Patriots. And you see that quickness. Now look at him get right into the pads. Look at the hand placement. Boom. Just bench presses this guy. He does that frequently. Essentially just takes that edge away from that running back, Kamara, makes him cut it back right into the teeth of the defense. It's just something you see routinely on film with that power, with that quickness. Here's one where he gets fed over from the guard, and he senses it. Again, his eyes are on the center. He knows who's the primary blocker of him, and he's able to get that base down and two gap here. Once again, as that running back gets north and south, he's able to disengage. So I think it projects as a nose tackle, a shade type in the Bills defense. more of that run stuffing nose tackle, but I do think he's got some pass rush ability. And just another guy that, yes, came over from the Cardinals, but another guy that just he's got that natural strength, man. And
Yeah.
look how fluid he is. Like we always talk about like good stances and how, when you're out of your stance, you're essentially still at that really low pad level. Like he just does that time and time again. And I think he'd be a very good addition, not just for early downs for the Bills, but in some of those odd front type structures when the Bills are rushing on 2nd and 10 and long or 3rd and long. He can do some things that can occupy the center to free up others.
Yeah, he's my it's close to like a 1A and 1B type of deal with him and Roy Lopez for me. I actually and if if everybody's watching the tape here with us, you can kind of see it. Like him and Lopez are similar stylistic players, but you hit it on the big one initially with Tonga. Like Tonga just has more range, more movement. Like you can even see it. Like he's a little bit lighter, not in a bad way, but a little more of a leaner, lighter, lower body. So it enables him to kind of move around a bit more. He's got a different body structure than Lopez, but the same type of play style, mentality. I'm going to create displacement. I'm going to beat you up. I'm trying to just pummel anybody on the interior and create displacement, constrict running lanes, squeeze gaps. And I do like, that he has a bit more upfield nature than someone like Roy Lopez. So you get a little bit of that added into his game and into the defense while not sacrificing too much from a run defense standpoint. And in all these clips, look at where his hands are going. Look at where his eyes are going. Look how strong his base is against the run, but also against the pass. And here, like this one against Penning, 70 for the Saints, he's able to just get underneath him and drive like that.
Yeah, he just lands first strikes, right? And first pop with those hands like frequently.
Yeah, that's one of my big things is like heavy pop loaded hands is what I have written in my notes, which now that I say it out loud sounds stupid. I don't know why I wrote it like that, but you get what I'm saying. And even this one too, the way he wraps and kind of circles back on Fields, this is more doable for someone like him as he kind of reads what's happening up front. He's initially spiking inside, circles back over the top, but you see this type of movement, that type of ability in space. So he's somebody who, has some sand in the pants. He can be a stone on the interior, but he gives you a little bit more movement from a pass rush perspective and potentially trying to get after the quarterback. And he can do that while not sacrificing too much from a run defense standpoint.
No doubt, man. He was a fun watch for me once again this year. All right, so let's move on to, let's see, another interior defensive lineman. You want to do Reader? How about Reader next? What are your thoughts on DJ Reader? I saw you posted something on him today. What are your thoughts on him, especially as an early down defender? I think, as he gets older, obviously his role is going to be a little more limited. And I think that when you watched his film, you kind of felt that, but he can still dominate as a nose tackle on 1st and 2nd down. There's no denying that.
Yeah, it was nice I was able to kind of peep him a little bit while I was watching Lopez, and then I circled back and started watching Reader and also got to see a little more Lopez. I think, early down run defender, you're still seeing someone who understands. This one I loved. This one against the Chiefs was my favorite, probably clip of what I watched for him. Like he's aligned right on Creed Humphrey, takes him on, sees and feels the block coming from 76, and he gets lean and leverage into the ground, stays rooted, but you can see him dip and lean a bit to be able to split that double team, separates, pushes Humphrey down the way, and then just forms up Pacheco and makes the tackle in the backfield. He's right there kind of in that next wave of guys after, I've got Lopez and Tonga kind of firmly in their own tier at the top there. And then I think Reader, along with several other names, is a potential fit. I liked him so much for years back when he was with Cincinnati, when it was like him and BJ Hill, right? Just causing problems there. And he's still got that ability as a run defender against somebody who recognizes blocks. I like how he uses his hands, plays with good leverage. You'll see him wrench guys backwards. This one against the Cowboys is a good one too. The double stays on him for a good chunk of time, and he's not moving. He gets turned a little bit, but he's not getting driven back. And then as soon as Jack Campbell, number 46, as soon as he commits to try and fit the run and that tackle comes off him, exactly, Reader, he slices right through and he makes the play. Like, again, he fits in that mold of somebody who's not going to get displaced. He's not going to move. He's just going to make you work. Like, if you blocked him, that means you blocked him. He's not getting displaced easily. He's not getting bounced around and thrown out the club. He's going to make you grind to move him. And I just think that role and that skill set is so important. And in him, veteran presence, a lot of experience, a lot of big game experience. That's something for me as well that I like being able to add to the defense, add to the locker room, a known quantity and a guy who's seen a lot of ball, knows what his role is and can play it.
Yeah, my one-liner for him was he's a 31-year-old veteran nose tackle with a massive frame who functions as a premier run-stuffing anchor, winning with good lower body power and low pad level, as you saw, to neutralize double teams or split double teams. Play strength still very good and frame control on base blocks. He very rarely, if he's only single blocked, he's winning more times than not. Very good hand usage and a violent hump move. He's got that hump move that we see from Daquan Jones from time to time. And power, enough power to push through the pocket as a pass rusher. Now, it's not flashy, but you'll see some of those reps here. He's still got a little juice where you can win quickly, but it's got to be one of those plays where, like, hey, he's pretty close to the quarterback spot in the pocket because his range obviously is not as good as it used to be. So athletic ability or mental processing while possessing efficient initial movement off the snap, as you saw in some of those rushes. His athletic ability is adequate due to limited range down the line of scrimmage, as I said, and marginal closing speed, making him a specialized early down defender, which is no surprise, again, given his age. As far as competitive toughness and that pass rush, demonstrates good competitive toughness as a power rusher who is difficult to anchor against. Obviously, he's a freaking rock, though his impact is limited by marginal explosiveness as a lack of change of direction, resulting in a low pressure percentage. But as an early down defender, you guys saw that he can make a difference. He can keep guys at the second level, such as a Terrell Bernard or some of those lighter linebackers, to keep them free to roam, so that, like you saw in the other play, where as soon as that linebacker commits to his gap and that guy comes off, you can see him go make the play. He's not just out of the play. He stays in and he makes a great tackle on that. And so I think as an early down, nose tackle, shade technique, you can do some things. Even if it is an even front, you could throw a linebacker on the end of the line of scrimmage there and make it a 5-man surface, and he's able to control the middle, much like the other two that we discussed today.
Yeah, I think, again, just that type of that skill set, that role, that play style. I also even kind of, again, with him, like, I like the idea of, man, this Giants game, sorry, I'm going to cut myself off. There were so many times where him and Lopez, as you highlighted there, 98
gumming it up.
Yeah, just gumming it up. There's one where I think the Giants, I think it might be duo, but there's just a double on Lopez and Reader, and neither of them get moved. And yeah, just look at this. Reader, he's got that base block, hands are right into the chest of his man, and what's he doing? Reading that running back track, peeking in the backfield. Look at Roy Lopez. Look at the shape as he eats that double team, drops the knee, reduces his surface area. He's gumming up the works there. Reader is working his way to the running back. You see Rodriguez, 44, jumps up and fits his gap. Lopez and Reader on this play single-handedly just like eat this run. Like, they stop it in its tracks. And the Readers, it seems so simple, but it's just the hand usage. It's the eyes. Like, he understands what's happening. He recognizes what's happening, and he's able to action it physically and get himself into the gap and make the play. And then Roy Lopez is there acting like Godzilla, taking on two blockers. I'm so excited that this is like, it's not just like pie in the sky and it's like projecting. Like, this is a real possibility now. And this is really exciting. And I'm very happy for that.
So aside from those three nose tackles, guys that can kind of plug the middle, kind of two gap, and who have done that frequently, if we kind of kick out a little more, we're talking 3 techniques, some 5 techniques. Now, some of these guys we're going to talk about next are more your traditional defensive tackles, or those 3 or 5 techs in odd fronts, as we'll talk about. Who's the guy that has been your crush this year going through some of that film?
For me, it's David Onyemata, the first one that we have queued up here from the Falcons. I remember him back when he was with New Orleans, and then he went to Atlanta. And for me, it starts with all the versatility that he has. Like, even, he had 45 snaps at nose tackle for Atlanta this past year, and it was like traditional, true nose tackle stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but he's 300 pounds. Like, what's he going to be able to do there? And he's holding his own against doubles. He's not getting moved. And you're just watching him play. I just love his play style and his skill set. Some numbers too, which are nice. He was 17th in total stops for all interior defensive linemen this past year, 25th in stop percentage for interior defensive linemen. Again, 45 snaps at nose tackle. He's good up front from a versatility standpoint. You really kind of can take him. He can be that 4-eye in those odd front looks, moonlight a little bit as a nose. And then if you want to go with some even structure stuff, he can play a 1, he can play a 3. Again, more suited as a 4-eye who can play 1 or 3 in even fronts, but alignment versatile across even and odd front structures, plays with a wide base, ass kicker inside, again, plays with good leverage. I really like how he uses his hands and his length to not only win first touch, but then extend and shed. You will see that regularly. This one against the Niners is a good one. It gets his hands in, playing a little bit of that gap and a half where he's got his body in that primary gap, reads the cut of Robinson, the running back, sheds, gets into the secondary, makes the play. He's got good pop off the line of scrimmage and on the snap. I like that he can be a movement player. You can use him on some stunts and some run blitzes and jump gaps and create some chaos that way, or he can just be an anchor or point of attack player. I love how he reads the running back's track while he's engaged. Not a huge bag of pass rush moves. He's more of like a push-pull and a hand-fighting usage guy. Translate, win first touch, get some pop, rip through, play with leverage and explosion. But another guy with really good block recognition. One of my key things, too, is the way his feet and hands move in sync with one another while he is engaged. I just think he's a really versatile, useful player across the board that can line up in multiple alignments across even and odd front structures. His play style fits. Bit of an older guy. I believe he'll be 33 during the season this year, but seeing him on the tape this year, I didn't see any let up. He just has so much juice and athleticism to his game. I think he is going to be, I'm wondering how the age kind of marks with his price as well, because he's coming off a 3-year, $35 million deal with the Falcons. So I'm wondering, what does that average annual value look like? But just what he offers across the front in a multitude of structures really intrigues me. His effectiveness, the pop, the violence, and just what he offers from a usability standpoint.
Yeah, he's up there in age, but as you can see, look at the juice coming, off the snap here. He's still got some juice in the legs left there. Immediately fires into that guy. The experience, in hybrid fronts is something that he's used to doing, whether it was with Ulbrich in Atlanta last year or Dennis Allen when he was with the Saints. He's just a pro's pro, a technician, a guy. You see the craft and refinement in his craft, in his game. He can do a little bit of everything. Is he elite at anything? No, but he's very good at a lot of things. Yeah. And again, he's played in different defensive structures, so he does have that versatility. And when you're versatile, you have value, especially to teams like the Bills that are transitioning from that even front 4-3 nickel over type front to more of an odd front under Jim Leonhard. And so he is a guy you could watch him every single year and be impressed with him because he is such a technician and just plays the game the right way, 110 miles an hour, doing his job, helping others, but also, again, doing his 111th and playing with violence. And that violent shed here, violent hands, his hands are always, into guys very quickly. A very, very good player for a long time. He's such a high floor guy. Even if he, because of his age, drops a little, that floor is still high. And when you're transitioning to this new defensive structure, he's the kind of guy you like to bring in to show these younger guys how to, do things the right way when we're talking in these type of hybrid fronts.
Yeah, that's a really good call too. Kind of getting somebody in the room like that who has that experience and can be a bit of, the stereotypical, coach on the field type of deal or in the locker room or whatever it is, like someone who has practical real world application and experience in a multitude of roles and in a multitude of experiences across this league for a long time. He's been a highly productive player. He was good with the Saints. He's been good with the Falcons. I was sitting here, like, when I kind of started the list, he was one of the earliest guys I started with. Actually, no, I lied. I started with John Franklin Myers. Yeah. And then I went to Onyemata and I was like, the first thing I looked at was the age. I was like, oh, he's already like 33. I was like, oh, so he'll be 34 next November. I was like, yeah, we'll see. And then I saw the metrics and I was like, okay. And then I watched the tape and I was like, oh, like you just watch him move and he knows how to use his body. He knows how to play with technique. And he's a really good reader of the game. And again, that versatility to be able to use him. Oh, hey, we're going to be, you're in a 4-eye now. Now it's second down. We're going 4 down front. Cool. You can be at a 1 or a 3. You could do some cool stuff with him on third downs. That versatility I think is really important for this defensive line, and something, again, that I think ties into the nature of John Franklin Myers and the ass-kicking nature that John Franklin Myers brings as well. I don't know if anyone notices a theme of what we're looking for here.
He is. He of the guys that we're talking about tonight, he is that ass kicker. And, I almost because I watched him a bunch when he was with the Jets and even with the Broncos, but I guess I didn't watch it in totality and take in his entire game. But he is that ass kicker. I mean, he's 29 years old. If the Bills are going to bring in an interior defensive lineman, I think this would be more of a big ticket item because there are going to be a lot of teams that want this guy. That's how good he is. And he's very versatile. 29 years old, 26 total tackles last year, 46 total pressures, 7.5 sacks. 5.5 of those were on third down, 17 total QB hits on the quarterback last year. And so he can do a little bit of everything. He can be an even front guy. He can be an odd front guy. I like him when we're talking about these odd front structures, those 5-man surfaces, specifically if, the 5 tech, if he's out, lined up outside of the tackle or even a little wider than that, even a 4-eye. I think if we look at the Bills roster right now, I think this is the type of guy they're kind of missing, that 4-eye, that 5 tech guy that can play to the strong side of the formation, to the tight end side of the formation. He can do that so well. And you can see him 2-gap. You can see him strain and do so many things from that perspective. My one-liner for him was he's a 29-year-old versatile defensive lineman with very good hand usage and a deadly speed to power rush who functions as a high motor chaos creator across multiple alignments. Just, again, a great guy to kind of bring into the Bills when we're talking kind of that scheme change. As far as technical proficiency, that pass rush plan, very good hand fighting, as you'll see, and an explosive swim move. It's almost sweeping up over the top of guys, whether it's play side or backside, but also that pop in their hands, like we talked about with some of those nose tackles. He's got that ability at the point of attack. While he plays long and leverages the ball down the line of scrimmage, his agility is adequate, leading him to play out of control at times and miss tackles. So there are times where he'll do a swim move and it's sweeping and he'll just completely miss where the ball is going. But again, more times not, he's creating that chaos. But he is way more athletic and way more of a chaos creator than I remembered him in Saleh's scheme in New York with the Jets.
Yeah, I think, being able to play in Vance Joseph's defense really kind of highlighted and played to the versatility that he has as a player, which is the biggest thing for me. My top line for him is similar to kind of what your one-liner is. I wrote versatility, hand usage, and violence. And I think John Franklin Myers kind of starts the domino of Broncos players that are realistic fits and could be had by the Bills with Leonhard. Somebody's going to come over. It's just a matter of who? Is it him? Right. Is it Sternad? Is it Singleton? I doubt it's Singleton, but or is it PJ Locke? Someone's coming over. Who is it going to be?
Look at this pop. This dude on his ass.
What's funny is there's this from Franklin Myers, and there's another right guard that Sebastian Joseph Day mercs on his tape, and I just kept noticing the Chargers line is just, I mean, it's already known, but they're so bad. There's so much good tape against the Chargers line. But yeah, I do like Franklin Myers' ability to kind of get forward a little bit more as a pass rusher. He's right up there too, similar to kind of how I have Roy Lopez and Tonga as a 1A, 1B or in their own type of tier. That's where I'm at for Franklin Myers and Onyemata. I think the Bills need Lopez or Tonga. I think they need Onyemata or Franklin Myers. You need this type of role, this skill set, this mentality, this play style in this defense. And again, just sticking with Franklin Myers, he just gives you that versatility where you're seeing it in the tape. Look where he's lining up in 4-down stuff. Look where he's lining up in odd front stuff. Look what he's doing as a rusher. Look what he's doing as a run defender. And that he has very recent experience with Jim Leonhard and, potentially the front structure philosophy or identity that he might want to bring with him after studying under Vance Joseph for a couple of years. So I think that increases the odds of him coming through. He's also coming off a 2-year, $15 million contract with the Broncos. So something that, probably is going to be expensive for the Bills' taste, but nothing that is going to be completely out of their price range.
Yeah, look, I mean, some of the agility shown here, I know it's against the Jets, but just that change of direction, that hand usage, the arm over, the swim moves, he is fun to watch. And again, I guess I didn't see as much of the pass rush acumen when he was in that Jet scheme, but it's funny. I look back at some of the bold notes from my scouting report on him. Creates chaos, stays alive, quite the motor, doesn't stay blocked, more active than Stack and Shed. Very effective arm over, especially on backdoor blocks. Pop in his hands, first touches felt. Technically sound hand usage, hand fighting very good. Puts offensive linemen on their asses as a rusher. Speed to power rush is deadly. It stood out. And it's funny, I think it was yesterday where he said on social media, on X, hey, go take a look at my film, because he was creating chaos.
Oh, did he? That's super cool.
I mean, he's just so active with his feet, with his hands. Look at the hand and foot right here, and hands and feet, how they're working together to beat that aggressive set from that offensive lineman and the Raiders. Man, again, I think he's going to cost a pretty penny, but if he could get into the Bills scheme, I think he is exactly that 3 tech, that 4-eye, that 5 tech they need. And you're going to get your bang for your buck because of the balance that he has as a run defender, as a scheme versatile defender, but also as a pass rusher, as you're seeing here.
Yeah, and I think the age is nice too. Like, I think he's someone who, you're going to get a quality play for, someone kind of entering into or staying in their prime a little bit, depending on how you look at it with, where your thought is on how players age at what positions and what have you. But yeah, he was one who, as soon as the Bills made the switch to Leonhard, John Franklin Myers was the first name. You and I were talking about, like, oh, like, who's a fit and who's not, and kind of the weeks leading up, and then the episode we did. And I remember thinking, like, okay, like, of everybody they have now, who's a fit, who's not. And it's like, okay, like, who's the current 4-eye? Is it TJ Sanders? Is it Landon Jackson if you get a little heavier, or what, this and that? And I remember thinking in my head, like, man, it'd be just great if you could just pluck John Franklin Myers and just put him in that 4-eye there. And again, this is the role, the skill set, the play style you need, even if it's, it might not be John Franklin Myers for them. It might be someone else that they've identified, but this is the type of skill set, role, play style that you need in this defense. The versatility to go from odd to even, the ability to play the run, rush the quarterback, multiple gap, identities and functions from single to gap and a half to that type of role is what this defense needs. It's not just like us being like, oh, this would be great if they had it. This is what it would be great if they had it, but they also need it.
This is a 5-minute cut up. Like, this guy's a stud. He is a stud. I was
literally thinking, I was like, Jesus, how long is this? I literally looked
goes
down,
on forever. Yeah, it goes on forever. He's an obvious guy that is a fit, obviously schematically as well, but he's a stud. He's gonna command money. And so I think if Bean dips into some and pulls some of those levers to create some money for the salary cap, he's a guy I could see them, splurging on, and also getting your bang for your buck with him because of what he brings in the run and the pass rush game.
I want to ask you a question real fast.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, because I was thinking of this a little, like, based on how the market goes, and, it's never, oh, in an ideal world, it'd be great if you got a nose and like a 4-eye or whatever, but it never works out that way. What are your thoughts on signing or getting 2 noses, or like a nose and like a more of a nose than a 4-eye, and then taking Deone Walker and making him more of a regular 4-eye than a nose?
I think getting a traditional nose is a good idea. I don't think you need to splurge, even on some of the guys we talked about, whether it's in free agency or the draft. Those are late round guys most of the time anyways, especially if you're talking about their limited usage on early downs. Because when you get into those 3rd and longs, you don't want those nose tackles out there anyways. You're going to want your attacking defensive linemen.
Yeah, they're getting at most, like 15 to 20 snaps a game, depending on how much someone's running at you.
And think about this. The top 0 technique, head up over the center, in the entire NFL last year on run snaps was 91 run snaps by Grover Stewart of the Indianapolis Colts. Who would have thought
he's so cool. He's an ass kicker, man.
And it's gonna, it's a good segue into this Colts defense and Neville Gallimore. But my point is, again, you're not using true nose tackles, true 0 techs as often as you think. That role has changed. And so, yes, they should get one that can play that 0 tech on some early, first down runs and stuff like that. But more times than not, the nose tackle across the league is more of a penetration type defensive tackle nowadays.
Especially if you're playing a movement-based defense.
A movement-based defense, yes. Like Jim Leonhard, you're going to want that nose tackle to be able to jump gaps and slant and spike so that you can send a linebacker and drop an edge guy. And so I think it would behoove them to get a guy, and maybe that guy doesn't dress every week. Maybe he doesn't dress every week, right? Maybe he's one of those based on game plan or who you're playing type of guys. But I do think that, moving Walker around the defensive line, I think that only makes your defensive line better because of his skill set, of his size. And he is a guy that we talk about that 5 technique. Yeah, I mean, he could play that 5 technique. He's going to, like, some of the issues that may pop up at nose tackle are probably going to pop up at 5 tech. But again, you're moving him around and you're forcing the offense to work around you rather than the other way around.
Yeah, very fair. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking of that last night and kind of putting things together, because I was like, okay, Walker, you play a little nose, play a little everywhere, and then you get somebody, to kind of rotate with him and eat the run snaps a little bit more at nose. And then I was like, well, what if you don't even have him do anything at nose and you get 2 noses or something like that, and then you just play him at 4-eye and 5 all the time and move him around and do all this crazy stuff. And again,
I think Walker, when you watched some of the stuff, now, were they in the odd front a lot? No. But again, you're translating, you're projecting what a guy can do in this new scheme. Deone Walker surprised us in his rookie year.
Absolutely.
But he did a lot of things that we showed from these nose tackle, whether it's 2 gapping. And those were moments where he wasn't technically asked to do 2 gap. And so, and he wasn't taught the technique to 2 gap, and whether it's the eyes, the hands, the reads. And so I think that having an impact player like him play at nose tackle and get those reps, I think he can help control the middle of that defense even more so because of that length and size than maybe a cheaper nose tackle. I just think I don't want them to limit Deone Walker, because I think, given on what we saw in year 1 and his ceiling and projection, he could be an impact player. And why not put that guy that can make an impact, especially against the run, in the middle? And then you can see him transition as a pass rusher too. He's got juice.
Yeah. I just want to see him unlocked as much as possible.
Yeah.
And started thinking about different ways or different things. And I think that's also, again, not to keep banging this drum, but that's what's like fun about this defense, is because there's so many like good possibilities. Like, oh, you could play this guy like this, or you could play this guy like that. And granted, you have to have guys who can have multiplicity like that, but the defense in itself plays to multiplicity and hybridization, and that's really fun. And this is a good comment that you brought up.
Yeah. Arthur Kraft says, feel like they need a top interior defensive lineman more than an elite edge. Need someone to protect their smaller linebackers. I think that is true, but they need a rush edge. They need, like, right now, they need a rush edge. And because they have some guys that you can kind of kick outside and be base edge guys, but they need a speed, bendier edge guy. So I'm not quite there. I think
they need a Nick Bonito to not make it too easy. They need a Bonito.
Right. It's in the odd front. Again, we're talking early downs, first and second down. The odd front 3-4 structure is meant to clog up schematically the middle. All right. So, you can have your ass kickers like we're talking about tonight, but schematically, the middle's it's gonna be clogged up naturally. And so the edge runs, the runs off tackle, the runs off tight end is where the runs go against odd fronts. And so I think that you can kind of hide some guys interior wise with the scheme, but when you get to those passing downs, you need some speed, and they don't quite have that. Because I could see, hypothetically, if Hoyt is healthy, he can be an outside linebacker edge guy. He's done it. Rousseau, I think he can play 5 tech and 4-eye. He can play outside linebacker in a 2-point. Again, you don't want him dropping a lot, but Nick Bonito, I think, dropped in the coverage like 36 reps last year. So keep that in perspective. And so, but I don't trust Rousseau to be a speed bendy edge guy. I think they need to add someone in the draft or free agency. And so while I do understand where you're coming from, Arthur, I think schematically they don't need to go high in the draft or free agency to bring in guys that are elite. If we're talking elite, I don't think they need to go that route.
I think they just need, whether it's, I'll take it at edge, I'll take it in the interior. In this defense, I would like, to your point, like a premier, I don't even want to use that word, but yeah, just like a premier edge rusher, like somebody who is, I want a bucket getter off the edge is, I guess, the easiest way to put it. And granted, they're going to have run responsibilities as well, but man, like I would have also thought this if they stayed with McDermott's defense, like they need a premium edge off the outside. In an ideal world, like I think Greg Rousseau gets far too much hate. But I still do think he's more of like a Robin that needs a Batman more so
Sure.
than a Batman himself.
Yeah.
So I would love for them to get him a Batman. And I think that would go a long way, especially with given how they're already constructed. Like, I do like having Walker. I do like having Ed Oliver. You could add Roy Lopez or Tonga for relatively like cheap money.
Yeah.
And then your interior is like, oh, okay, this has started looking nice on the, our three guys on the inside. But if you look at the edge, it's like, okay, it's Groot, Michael Hoyt, who's coming off an Achilles.
Yeah.
Javon Solomon, like, what are you getting from him? How does he translate here? And even if it's not just about translation, like, what is he as a rusher? We really haven't seen that in any form off the edge.
This scheme does fit him better, though, right?
Yes,
like,
1000%.
But again, we haven't seen it in the NFL.
No,
we saw it at the college level.
Yes.
Not here.
I mean, the best stuff we've seen from him in the NFL was the cool, like, odd mirror stuff that they were doing, or him dropping into coverage and
the Hoyt role.
Yeah, the Hoyt
before
stuff.
Hoyt was here.
The Hoyt and Dorian stuff that he was doing. So, I think overall, more like if you could have an elite interior guy or elite edge guy, I think it lends to having an elite interior guy, like NFL wise or like league meta type stuff.
Yeah.
But I think for the defense, I feel like they need I have more questions at edge right now, and like the exterior of the D line and the defense than I do the interior, even though I think they need to add to the interior as well. If that makes sense.
Because if you're thinking about pass rush downs, and again, if everyone's healthy, Oliver is probably your 3-tech pass rusher. Who's the guy pairing with him? They're probably going to kick. They can kick guys inside. That's one thing that a lot of these teams do that run odd front structures is take those outside linebackers, kind of kick them inside at times, or take that 5-tech like Franklin Myers, put him at D tackle. They're more
Zach Allen,
base DNs and 3-4s end up being D tackles and pass rush down. So again, if they were to go get a Franklin Myers and Ed Oliver on third down as defensive tackle pass rushers is pretty nice. I would take that.
Yeah, you can do some stuff. Oh, man. Yeah. This comment from James. I haven't watched David Bailey enough from Texas Tech, but he says, do you think Bean would move up to get Bain or the guy from Texas Tech? So the guy from Texas Tech is David Bailey. As a Miami Hurricane guy, if the Bills got Bain, would I swoon? I don't care about his short arms. He's going to rush. He's going to beat the hell out of dudes against the run. Oh, my God. I would swoon if they got Bain.
All right. So let's move on to probably the two guys that I've been crushing on the most, and that's Neville Gallimore and Sebastian Joseph Day. Colts with Gallimore are an odd front structure. They're actually quite fluid. They'll do a lot of cool things. And I think
we looked at their defense last year. We looked at some of their stuff last year because we had some guys who made our free agency list on the D line from the Colts.
I feel like their defensive structure is going to be similar to what the Bills are going to do. Gallimore is 6'2", 307 pounds. He had 38 tackles last year, 17 total pressures, 3.5 sacks. He's 29 years old, high energy guy with very good athletic ability and burst, who wins with lateral quickness and an attacking, tenacious style to blow up plays in the backfield against the run and against the pass. He's a guy that, going back to his 3-3-5 odd front structure days at Oklahoma, I loved it. When I was down at the Senior Bowl, he was always the first defensive lineman out on the drills, on those practice days. Obviously several years ago, but look at the range on this guy. Look at the burst. He's got such a high motor, man. Here's an odd front 0-tech look here, and look at the quickness and hand usage there, and the disruption on this little twist, interior stunt inside to disrupt the quarterback, flush him out of the pocket to force that incompletion. Man, like, there's plays like this all over his film. Very active hands, very active feet. He just doesn't stop. Look at the range here against Cam Ward. Look at him get on his horse, man. He's been fun to watch develop over the last few years, and a guy that I think you can use in pass rush downs, like third and longs, as that 0-tech to slant, to spike, and do things like that. But a guy that can play as a 3-tech backup to Ed Oliver. He can play some of that 4-eye stuff and pass rush. He can move up and down the defensive line, and definitely a guy that I've crushed on pretty hard since the Senior Bowl, but even more so catching back up on his film most recently with the Colts.
Yeah, it's funny. He's one not to the level of Hoyt for me his last year with the Rams, but he was a guy who I watched a decent chunk of Colts tape throughout the year because of Lou Anarumo, and then like buying him on the back end, and Nick Cross is a cool safety, and Zaire Franklin is sick. And I would see 92 kind of like making stuff. And I was like, oh, like, who's 92? Kind of like with the Rams, like, who's 97? I was like, oh, it's Hoyt. Yeah, you hit the big ones. Obviously, my big ones, I kind of did like my first bucket of things for him is athleticism and lateral agility are a plus. His skill set and play style allow for front multiplicity in terms of his usage, where you can align him along an odd front, can kick inside and fill a role naturally in an even front structure. Active hands and motor stand out regularly. There was also one too, I forget which game, maybe we'll end up seeing it towards the back end here. He like runs somebody down towards the sideline. It was similar to kind of what happened in that Cam Ward one that we talked about earlier, but just, yeah, that one against the Chargers is a good one. And you see just that burst. And granted, he's not going, from mile to mile. He's just going from the C to, or the B to the A. But you watch that step, and it's the side movement and then the upfield nature of it. Like, there's good burst
and that's important.
Explosion for it. Yes.
And that's important, even more so in Leonhard's defense. Again, whether they're showing a 5-man surface or a 4-man surface, being able to spike and slant. And again, when they run those creeper pressures or those simulated pressures, getting from one gap to the other and blowing up, blocking and pass protection, like he's got that first step quickness it's near elite. That's how good it shows up on film. And he's just another guy that I think, like, you bring him in and just to create chaos, you find a spot for him, you force Jim Leonhard and this defensive staff to find a place for him, because he's a guy that should be on the field because of what he can do, like you're seeing there against Sam Darnold.
And he, from an effectiveness standpoint, his most recent contract, he's coming off a 1-year deal with the Colts. He signed a 1-year, $1.337 million deal. This is somebody who, again, you'll hear that name if they sign him and people are going to be like, who or like what? But this is a good value signing with what he can offer, and the tape speaks to kind of what he can do. And I like what you mentioned from like a Colts defense standpoint in terms of kind of like the fluidity within their defense. And you get somebody who, and James says in the comments, he's twitchy. Yeah, he is twitchy. Like you're able to add some twitch, you add some physicality, you do it in a not too, break the bank type of move. Look at that long arm right into
he comes from that scheme, that odd front, odd stack structure from Oklahoma in his college days. Yeah. Obviously with the Colts recently too. Like, he played nose tackle and at Oklahoma, and he was always slanting, but he's also used to doing things like this. And he's all over the place, man. Whether you're talking defensive front and structures or chasing down, pursuit from the backside, he's just all over the place. And James is right. He is twitchy.
Yeah, and if you can add that twitchiness, anytime you can add, again, I want to broad brush it, but anytime you can add twitch and physicality and versatility, like in a player, and they're also effective in all those spots, like, and you look at his kind of snap count, he's getting some traditional like defensive tackle stuff, but he's getting stuff at like the edges, he's getting stuff at nose a little bit, like they kind of moved him around, and he's got effectiveness as a rusher and a run defender in those roles. These are the type of, again, guys that you can add that kind of raise the floor of your defense. It might not be the sexiest thing, but it's what you need schematically. It's what you need from an identity standpoint. And I think his effectiveness, his effectiveness is good, but his effectiveness, especially relative to what he would cost, is extremely intriguing. Like, if you choose, hey, the Bills are going to go for a premier wide receiver, or they're going to go for a big name at linebacker or safety or whatever the hell. And it's like, okay, we still got to make adjustments to the line. I think Gallimore is a good fit regardless, but even more so like what he's going to cost and what he's going to bring you, it seems like kind of a no-brainer.
When you watch Jim Leonhard's presser and he talked about what they're going to be philosophically on defense, he said they're going to attack. Gallimore was the first guy when I watched all of this film. I said, okay, this is the type of guy that fits what Jim Leonhard needs schematically, but also philosophically, and what he's looking for from a defender within the structure of his defense. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's always attacking, whether he's rushing the passer or the run game. He can be attack oriented in the run game as well.
Yeah, that wasn't the Cam Ward. Damn it. No, there was one, there was the Cam Ward, and this is going to drive me nuts because I was going to clip it and I didn't because it was so late and I was being lazy. Oh, it's similar to this one, but I'm gonna have to go find it. It's gonna drive me absolutely insane until I can find it. But yeah, Gallimore was the next guy that we're gonna go over, was my third player after Onyemata and JFM. But I like Gallimore, easy, like top 5 from a, like that role standpoint added in. I'm interested to see how kind of where we align on our episode, the week before free agency when we do our top 10 list. But yeah, you can. there's just so much effectiveness kind of in that Gallimore package. Then the
Yeah,
cost
he's gonna be. I'll tell you right now. These are, when I say my free agent crushes, these are guys that are pretty much going to be locked into my top 10 list, in some way or another. A guy that was there last year, Sebastian Joseph Day.
I'm almost to the point where like I saw that he was a free agent, and I said it on Twitter earlier today. I think to Greg, I just like skipped over him because like I feel like every year we're like, you know what, Sebastian Joseph Day would be a great fit. We do it at the trade deadline, we do it in the offseason, and like I saw his name and was like, screw it, I can't go down this road anymore. But he's an even better fit now.
Yes, he is.
So I was like, okay, we have to do it.
41 total tackles last year, 6 tackles for loss, 19 pressures, 5th in run stop percentage. We're gonna get over watch some of these plays right here, and this is like, okay, if Franklin Myers is that like perfect 4-eye 5 tech for the Bills defense and what we think Jim Leonhard's going to run in year 1 or year 2. He's that high priced probably type of guy, but I think Sebastian Joseph Day can do all of what Franklin Myers does as a run defender. Again, 5th in run stop percentage, as that 4-eye or 5 tech, as you see here against the Broncos. Again, just splitting that initial block between the tight end and tackle, and then leveraging the ball and then going and getting the ball. Like, he's just always around the ball. Very, very, when you're talking scheme versatile, he's got nose tackle, shade snaps. He's got 3 tech snaps. He's got 5 tech, 4-eye. Like, he's up and down the defensive line here, and he's great with his hands. He's always winning that first touch, first strike. And then you see him extend and bench press in 2 gap. He can do that inside as a nose tackle or 3 tech. He can do that as a 5. You see that here against the Colts. Just week in and week out, man, he's a technician, right? He's a guy that is a versatile technician with elite hand placement. I say elite hand placement and a high effort motor who function as an immovable 2-gapping force in the run game. Just fun watch. We talk about a pro's pro, a guy that knows his craft, knows his place. And he's a guy, like you see there, he's an ass kicker. He does throw guys up and down the field, throws guys out of clubs frequently from that defensive line spot. Again, Sebastian Joseph Day, another, crush when it comes to free agency. I think this is the year, man. I think this is the year they actually bring him in.
He's a guy that I also never understand how he isn't locked up long-term by someone with his versatility and effectiveness. He's coming off a 1-year, $6.9 million deal with the Titans, which is a pretty good chunk of change. 1 year, $7 million. Like, it's not like he signed a $3 million or $2 million deal. But he's just so versatile, from an alignment perspective and from an odd front structure standpoint, even from like we talked about a bit. If I had a one-liner for him, it's at the top of my notes here, but I wrote, Step 1, get under offensive linemen. Step 2, stack. Step 3, read the running back. Step 4, shed, rinse and repeat. I feel like you just see that regularly. Like, he gets under someone, stacks, he reads, sheds them, makes the play over and over. Some of his sheds, we had that one shown against the Texans. I use this phrase a lot on social media, like insubordinate and churlish. He is throwing dudes like violently to the ground, like disrespectfully chucking tackles and interior offensive linemen down to the ground. My big kind of 3-point thing for him is physicality, hand usage, and leverage. He plays heavy, but in a good way. It's like he's a bag of stone. He's rooted in the ground. He may get torqued a little bit in his upper body, but he'll snap back into place because his lower body stays firm and keeps him attached. And then that good hand usage, that good hand placement, when he gets into you, he gets his hooks into you and he stays there. And then from a gap perspective, like you mentioned, can be a single gap player or play gap and half, 2 gap across the board. And also just from like kind of looking at him from a size standpoint, he's 6'4", 310 pounds. And then you look at the play style, again, that's what he's listed at, but you look at the play style and the roles that he's occupied and the hats that he's had. I really, again, don't get how he has been locked up long-term by someone for a while. He's so effective. You watch him too. He's also one of those guys that, this is the big thing for me, and we've seen it across the board with these guys we've shown, but we haven't necessarily highlighted it. Like, he's a guy, if there's a tight end on him, he's eating that tight end. Like, that tight end's
that
not
guy
blocking.
Doesn't stand a chance.
No, doesn't stand a chance. He's going to beat the hell out of that dude. It's a mismatch.
And I had my note was dominates tight ends in heavy sets, dirty work kind of player, elite hand placement, and lives for the strain. Like, regardless if he's going tight ends, tackles, or guards, he lives for that strain, for that competitive fight at the line of scrimmage and controlling the line of scrimmage. As you see here against Creed Humphrey, the Chiefs are running a gap run. Look at him immediately shoot his helmet into that gap. And then again, get Creed Humphrey at length, keep him at arm's length. And then as soon as that running back commits to that gap up inside, oh, I'll just go ahead and shed that and go make the tackle. He's so good, man. I just don't understand why he hasn't been locked up, long term. And he's one of those glue players. When you're talking some of these hybrid fronts that you're seeing from the Titans, he's such a glue player. You see even Jihad Warrior, he's another guy we'll probably talk about in the future episodes. They have these guys that are just such glue players that understand their role, understand their assignment, and are just technicians. And Sebastian Joseph Day, he's just so much fun to watch. This is nearly a 4-minute cut up of his play last year, and he does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, those previous two plays, the Chiefs one, again, like that typical get under, stack, shed. It's underneath him, boom, let me extend. I'm reading, where's Pacheco going? Okay, I'm kind of seeing he's going inside.
And just like as a defensive lineman, even offensive lineman, watch the hands. Usually what they try to do is they fire their hands for the bicep area. Because when you fire your hands for the bicep area, when your hand slides up, where's it going to go? Right to, just look at that. Like, look at the hand placement, dude. That's elite. And then, of course, now here's the length. Boom. Now I'm bench pressing. And he's two gapping here. You're not going to come here because your eyes are in the gap. So that running back's like, no, I'm just going to obviously follow the puller, and then that's when Day is able to disengage and make the tackle. Just fun, man. He's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, he's got a lot of reps like this, and even some more extreme ones where it looks like he's just working the sled in practice, where he gets under it, hands right under the pits, extend, feet, shed, and then go make the play. And yeah, the physicality on top of it, the effectiveness. The glue guy kind of label, or the live for the strain, is such an important piece. Those are the kind of guys you need. You need these again, ass kickers, these dirty work guys, the glue guys. This is what you need. He gave 67 fits in this game. He had one where this is the one where he essentially he sacks them both. He goes through the guard and watch him. He bear hugs the guard and Herbert.
Both you can come in with me.
That's like 2 sacks on one play. Yeah, it's funny how much the Chargers show up with dudes just getting blown up this year with their offensive line. They're just cursed there. But yeah, just really effective player and would be so useful for this defense. And again, I don't think a guy who's going to break the bank. I think you could get him for, especially for what he does, an affordable deal. And for and now that we're saying that we're going to jinx it and someone's going to lock him up 3 years, $40 million for Sebastian Joseph Day.
This is the contract. How old is he? 29. Oh yeah, we'll take him.
Well, he's so effective. How is he not? Yeah, 3 years, $45 million. Here you go. But yeah, he's really at the height of my list. I love Onyemata and JFM and Joseph Day. I just think are, and even Gallimore too, like you talked about. It's all these, and I hope everybody noticed a theme with the guys that we're talking about. Notice the words that we keep hitting, or the buzzwords we keep talking about. Versatility, hand usage, block recognition, leverage, stacking, shedding, all of this, that is what they need. And I'm just excited that they're probably going to get one of these guys or somebody who does something like this in some way, and they need it, which is awesome. And they've needed it a little bit in some other forms in previous years, but it's really funny. Exciting.
And because for years, we've heard the coaching staff for the Bills, Sean McDermott, and the defensive staff tell us, oh yeah, we need, versatile guys. Yeah, they would sell us that, but
they're liars.
Were pretty rigid. They were pretty rigid in their archetypes and scheme fits. But now, when you hear Jim Leonhard talk about it, or anyone on the staff, I believe it. I believe they need these kind of scheme versatile guys that can play multiple positions, can line up in multiple spots. And I think a bunch of these guys, especially we're talking the 3 techs, the 4-eye or 5 techs, late in this episode, so many of those guys are just ass kickers, are able to, read and react in some of the odd front structures, but also attack in the run and the pass game, which is, again, it's super exciting to have some of that scheme versatility and some of that attack oriented structure from Jim Leonhard's defense going forward.
Yeah, that ability to kind of play attack, react, or react, attack. So important. And again, because you're playing, okay, are we one gapping? Are we gapping a half in here? Are we doing two gapping? Comment here from Bills fan
Good question.
7883. Yeah, he says, can Zion Logue offer any of this? I'd like to at least see it. In my opinion, he's been a square peg in a round hole. I think this is the scheme change that can benefit him. I've seen this question more for Phidarian Mathis than I have
Oh,
Logue.
I think he's a great fit. I think he's
Yeah,
a great
but
fit.
I would
I
say, so
would
let's
like
talk about him. Yeah,
bring Mathis back. I would totally. He played in this type of scheme, so I would
Bama.
totally bring him back. Very cheap, obviously contract too. He's his contract's up, but I think Logue is an interesting one because he came over from Atlanta, and you saw some.
Yeah,
So he played some of that hybrid type scheme in Atlanta. He's kind of on that Deone Walker side when we're talking size, 6'5" ish, 310.
yeah, big.
But and I know traditionally in odd fronts and 3-4 looks on early downs, that's usually not a tall guy playing nose tackle, which is kind of an argument for not putting Deone Walker there. But I think Logue, I don't think it's gonna, it doesn't hurt to try him there at nose tackle. I think he does have some of those skills. If I was going to pick between Mathis, you brought up Mathis, and now he's on my brain. I would bring Mathis because I think he can do a little bit of both when you're talking the 3, the 4-eye, and 5, but also at nose tackle.
Yeah, I hate to broad brush it with something like this, but yeah, like I'd rather if I got two guys who have like a similar play style or like role, and if we're talking like the nose, I want the shorter guy because it's just harder for the taller guy. Like, and I know that's like might be a stupid thing to say for someone, and I'm not discounting the skill set piece. I like Logue in the preseason. There were a couple reps. Maybe the Tampa Bay game in the preseason. One
Right.
of them where he had a couple reps where he got doubled and he ate the double. Like he dropped
Yeah.
the knee, he's splitting him, and I was like, oh, like this is really cool. And then Phidarian Mathis had some nice plays down the stretch too. I think exactly like you said. I think this structure I think allows for possibility for both of those guys, and I would welcome them back from a depth standpoint and kind of bringing them through. I'm not going to take either of them above who we've listed in this episode,
Right.
but I think I think this scheme change helps both of those guys.
No doubt.
And that comment from Logue, I think was nice to kind of, I've seen it a bunch, I think on social, like, oh, what about Phidarian Mathis? Does he fit here? Does he, or maybe it was comments on YouTube. I may have seen that on, and yeah, it's interesting how, again, even the guys that have previously been on this roster, starters, practice squad guys, depth guys, all of a sudden it's like, oh, could this be better for this guy? But a lot of times it's like, oh, Greg Rousseau and TJ Sanders. But now it's like, oh, what about more of the depth guys and the backups and the practice squad guys? Like, who does this fit now? Those are two interesting names, especially too. You always need bodies on the D line. You need a rotation at all times, especially if you're going to play this type of style. Dudes are going to get beat up. If you're trying to beat people up, you're going to get beat up. And football is just obviously like a high injury sport, as we know and have seen the past several years for the Bills.
Yeah, it's interesting because looking back, when the Bills started having run game issues on defense, we were like, hey, you need to go to some more base, which they did a bunch of this year, more so than in prior years. But they would use that 5-man surface. They would throw Dorian Williams as a Sam on the line of scrimmage, use that 5-man front. And again, but still play a lot of that one gap nature. And so now they can do during this transition, because it's not going to be just like, hey, we're going to an odd front, a 3-4 and early downs like 100% of the time. There's going to be a transition where they're going to show some of those 4-3 looks, but maybe they have one or two guys two gapping, not just one gapping across the board. And so guys like Mathis, guys like Logue, I do think this scheme does fit them and they can do some of those things. And they've shown some of the things that translate to what Jim Leonhard's going to do on defense. But I think after this entire episode, I think we're just all excited for some change on that side of the ball. Where we're talking archetypes, where we're talking concepts, where we're talking techniques. I mean, everything. We're just excited to see something different and project something different and to hopefully see something different on that side of the ball come 2026.
Yeah, these episodes are like kind of such a crucial point for that. We alluded to it in other episodes, like when we would do these free agency episodes, it was kind of easy to go through the free agents because you could cross off a bunch of guys.
That's a Bills guy, and then find one and be like, that's a Bills guy right there.
That's a Bills guy, or like, oh, here's these 6 names. None of those guys are their archetypes. These guys are out. Like you could just bucket it and kind of go through, and then it was like, okay, it's easy to whittle it down. Which ones do we like the best? Now there's literally a wider net and a multitude of possibilities, and in a fun way as well. And you can get somebody in a role that you need, and they could be a little high priced. You could get somebody to do that role and maybe at a little lesser value, but still give you production, and they won't cost as much. Like, there's so many fun possibilities now. And yeah, we hope you folks kind of get that from this episode, kind of just talking about the defensive line. Wait till we get to the linebacker conversation and start talking about like what they can have at linebacker and what they can do with that and what they need and what this defense could benefit from and the players that we identify in the skill sets. And something that Erik mentioned as well, and we've talked about it on the show, like keep getting it into your brain with this change in defense that there are still similarities to what the Bills have done previously. There are still one gapping elements. You're still going to see 4 down. You're still going to see nickel. There are similarities present. This is a scheme change. Like Jim Leonhard said, there are going to be changes. There are differences, especially from a philosophical and identity standpoint. But this isn't throw everybody and everything out the window because everything's changing completely. There still are multiple principles and elements that are present, which makes current guys a fit, but also speaks to the versatility because you need guys who can do a little of A, a little of B, and a little of C. Whereas before it was just, we're mainly going to do A, sprinkle in B. You're not going to see C ever. And that's really fun because, again, it opens up the pool of who can come on these episodes and who the Bills can bring in.
Yeah. And so going forward, leading into free agency, beginning of March, we're going to be each week attacking, some of these positional groups. Next week, we're doing edge. So edge, outside linebackers, and off the ball linebackers.
Gonna be a big Erik episode. Erik loves his linebackers.
Yeah, that's a fun episode. But it's a little different now because you have to kind of separate the edge outside linebackers separate from just off the ball linebackers, because before it was always off the ball linebackers, with the Bills, whether it was the Mike, the Sam, or the Will. But now it's almost different buckets because the outside linebackers are primarily, edge defenders and pass rushers. And so now, the off the ball linebackers in this odd front structure not only play off the ball, but they also have to have some rush ability.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're diving into and have dove into when it comes to outlining some targets. And it's going to be fun because Anthony and I have got some really good off the ball linebackers and edge guys that fit the scheme versatility and some of that diversity and structure stuff, but also guys that are, exploring and displaying different skills than we've had as, off the ball linebackers in this scheme.
Yeah, I think that next week's episode on the linebackers is going to be maybe the biggest change in a position group defensively than what we've seen before for, I think, for fans and for, this Bills defense. Yeah, it's not just, we've only looked at off ball guys, and it's only like, okay, we know they're playing nickel, but now it's, like a little bit of inside linebacker aspect, a little bit of outside. Can you rush? Can you drop? Where can you rush and drop from? How do you fit the run? You got to have a little
body type for an outside linebacker is completely different than we're used to as an archetype. So that is a huge, huge change. We assume. So it was fun, man. It was so much fun to go through some of these guys and kind of whittle down the list, but it's just such a different. It's so different and new from what we're used to scouting, as we said numerous times in this episode.
Yeah, which is really fun for us. And we hope you folks are having fun on this journey with us. We will obviously have you covered every single week. So for those who don't know, I'm pulling up the calendar right now. Free agency starts officially Wednesday, March 11th. Wednesday, March 11th. But legal tampering starts that Monday, the 9th. That's the day when, like, as soon as noon hits, you start hearing, Timmy is expected to sign with this team and Joe is expected to sign with this team, blah, blah, blah. You'll start hearing that on Monday. So we've got 4 episodes left, including this one, in terms of breaking down all the free agency pieces. So next week will be linebackers in both off ball and the edge fashion. And then we will go through and dive in and kind of tie in safeties and wide receivers and some offensive line stuff, and then hit our top 10 list as we kind of round into free agency form. Erik, any parting words for the people as we start to say goodbye and wind down here?
No, I mean, give them a heads up on what you got going on with Disguise coverage. I had a little tweak of the schedule. I mean, we appreciate you guys joining us live. The time slot changed for this.
That's on me.
It happens. And so we're glad that you guys joined us live. We're glad and appreciate you joining us later if need be, because a lot of you are still at work or on your way home from work.
Yes.
We're going to try to cut up some of these guys into individual videos and segments so that you can, just pop it on real quick and not, if you don't have enough time to watch the full episode, you're still able to see some of the guys that we're crushing on and when it comes to free agency. And so, again, we love doing this for you guys, and we appreciate you joining us live or after the fact.
Yes, thank you very much to everyone who tuned in live. Thank you to everyone who watched post live. If you are a listener, whatever form or fashion your episode consumption comes in, we sincerely appreciate it and are thankful for it. Yeah, I kind of bucked the schedule a little bit today because things are going sideways for me. And then no disguise coverage last night for me. I'm going to be doing disguise coverage. What's today? Wednesday, either tomorrow or Friday. I have to decide if it's going to be live or recorded based on what I'm doing, but you will get a disguise coverage episode. And yeah, we appreciate you folks for your flexibility. Good chunk of you blowing off work or maybe not to tune in. So we appreciate that. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Continue to get at us. Any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns in the YouTube comments. Get at us on Twitter. If you are an insider, get at us in the Discord, whatever channel. If it's a DM, anything and everything. If you have thoughts on a player, I know a couple of the guys that will be going over next week, I saw their names flooded in episodes of disguise coverage in the comments of, oh, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? So, maybe there's a defensive lineman that you really like that we didn't cover in this episode, or someone you think would be a great nose fit. Anything and everything. We love kind of the engagement, the feedback, and how everything kind of goes round and round here with us in this community. So if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, anything we didn't get to in this episode, a player, whatever, leave it in the YouTube comments, get at us on any of the socials, Discord channel, whatever you got. And yeah, we are very thankful to everybody who tuned into this episode. We hope you folks enjoyed this episode. Thank you as always to Joe DeRosa, our man behind the scenes, setting us up for success each and every week, especially with the fluidity of our day job schedules, where sometimes we're going at 5, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's the day before. We almost went Sunday this week, several days ago, Super Bowl day, and then we didn't. There's a lot always happening with how our schedules go, but Joe is awesome, and you folks are all awesome as well. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, tell your family, friends, loved ones about it. If they're Bills fans, if they're just football fans, if you think they can glean something from this episode, word of mouth is tremendously important to what we do, and is a large piece of how we got to be where we are as a brand. And thank you to everyone who tuned into this episode. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for the founder of Cover One, Mr. Eric Turner, this has been another edition of the Cover One Film Room. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We appreciate you. We will see you when we see you. Godspeed. And as always,